I'm going to cover now the topic on how to change an LNB on a satellite dish. You may wish to change the LNB for one of two main reasons. You may have a faulty LNB which is causing you problems, which you want to replace with another LNB, or you may wish to upgrade your LNB either to a 4-way LNB, such as this one, which is called a quad LNB, or an octo LNB, which is 8 outputs on it. A single LNB can supply signal to one standard box. A quad LNB can supply signal to 4 standard boxes, or 2 HD or 2 Sky Plus boxes, and clearly an octo has 8 outputs and it can handle 8 standard boxes, or a combination of HD and quad and Sky Plus boxes. So it's particularly if you're approaching this problem as a DIYer, you don't need any special tools other than a snip and a tie wrap to change out the LNB. But the key point to consider is you do not want to disturb the dish, because if you move the dish during the operation, you'll probably need to get an expert involved in the process to realign the dish, because it's very difficult to realign it. So gently does it is the general rules. So for this particular demonstration, I've assembled the satellite dish and installed it in my workshop here. I'm just going to rotate the dish around. Don't do this in reality, okay? So you can get a side view of the satellite. The LNB is held in place either with a plastic bung, or normally I would say that a better way of attaching the LNB to the dish, and for ease of removal at a later date, is to use a tie wrap. So I use simply, the only tool I need for this operation is a single tie wrap, or a single set of snips. I snip the tie wrap and I pull it down, and now I hold the dish to keep it steady, and I pull out the LNB. Now there's equally here we have a plastic insert. The insert on the base of this LNB here is not exactly the same size as the metal tube, and in between the tubular arm and the LNB we have a plastic insert. So generally, sometimes the insert will actually come out with the LNB when you pull it out, and if it does, it should be reinserted before putting in the new quad LNB. So in this case, I'm simply upgrading from a standard to a quad LNB. So once again, I put my hand on my dish to hold it steady. I grab the LNB and I slot it in, and it should go in just as simple as that. The LNB should just be straightforward, pointing forward. And now I pick up the only piece of equipment in addition to the quad LNB that I need, which is just a standard 4.8mm wide tie wrap. If it was any wider than this, it wouldn't slot through the hole, and if it was any smaller, it mightn't be strong enough. And we just slot it through, pull the tie wrap back like this, and use our snips then to cut the excess length off the LNB. So, and that's it. That's the entire process completed. We can reattach our wires now at this point that we would have unscrewed at an earlier point. So now we simply come along. This is a sample wire I have here. I screw it on here. Normally what we would do also is we'd use a series of tie wraps to simply tie wrap this cable back onto the arm. These tie wraps probably would have to have been snipped originally to change out the LNB. And finally, it's important to keep this as watertight as possible. So with a standard LNB, this is achieved by using sticky tape wrapped around the connector, but with both quad and octo's LNBs, they have a very handy feature, which is a pull down flap. So if I pull it down like this, you can see now the connector is protected from the elements and is watertight. And that's the entire operation. We can connect an extra wire down to a second to connect the Sky Plus box or to additional rooms. If you're not using particular ports, you're best that the little plastic inserts that come with it, such as this, are left in position and it will stop water leaking into the LNB. Okay, that's the in entirety changing the LNB in your dish from, in this case, from a single to a quad LNB, but the process is identical for changing to another single or changing out to an octo LNB.